So the background footage today is me exploring Orson for the first time. Unfortunately, it was nighttime when I logged in, so I don't get to see some of the better views with the sun, and I wasn't getting very good frame rates. So I've sped up the footage in the background so it doesn't look as choppy. I don't have a frame rate counter, but I was definitely getting sub 30, and it was definitely dropping below 20 sometimes. It's kind of at a state where it's not enjoyable frame rates, but it's bearable. If any of you were curious, I have a 1080 graphics card and I got a 7700K processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and it's installed on a SSD. So if you're trying to figure out what kind of frame rates you'll get in Orison for yourself, those are my specs. And anyway, today I kind of wanted to continue along the road of the multi-crew topic, and I kind of wanted to dive more into the mining multi-crew aspect and how I think CIG could really improve the mining with multi-crew, because right now everybody's like, I'll just bring 3 prospectors instead of a mole. And like I said in the previous video, I'll go over kind of that real quick so you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. But kind of giving the mole three different types of lasers and putting out, like, I don't know, the example I'm going to use, because we have Quantanium in the game. Like, I'm not saying that this is necessarily a good idea or that the CIG should do this, but like having different types of Quantanium. Like, hey, this Quantanium, hey, it's 3 times faster. This other Quantanium, hey, it's you can go 3 times farther on it. This Quantanium, hey, you can go twice as far and twice as fast with it. Or this other Quantanium, hey, it's you go half the speed but you get 10 times the distance. And I think like these different types of rocks, the mole should be able to use the combinations of its 3 different types of lasers to mine all these rocks on top of the normal Quantanium rock. So like, for instance, the one that's hey, you travel 3 times faster, you use the main laser, the same that would be like on the prospector, and you use like the right side laser on the mole. And then the one that's like, hey, you travel 3 times farther, you use the main laser and the left laser. The one that's like, hey, half as fast but 10 times as far, you use the left and right lasers. And then the one that's 2 times farther, 2 times faster, you'd have to use all 3 lasers. And I think this would add some interesting variety and incentive to multi-crew mining ships instead of just taking out 3 of the smaller mining ships. And kind of the reason why I think that this would be important is because we need to be incentivized to use multi-crew in this game. And I think this is a good way to incentivize multi-crew without punishing anybody for playing like single player, potentially. Now I think the question kind of becomes, at this point, should you allow prospectors to equip these different mining lasers so that you could essentially do the same thing as a mole with 3 prospectors? And I think this question is a little bit more difficult to answer, because like it's hard to tell how that would play out in the verse, essentially. Like, would that make the mole obsolete because it's competing against 3 prospectors again? Would the mole still be a good option that you would more than likely use just because of convenience? Or how would that go down? I'm not sure. I think I kind of tend to lean more towards making these mining lasers a bespoke solution for the mole, just because I feel like having that extra competition there where you're again comparing it to 3 prospectors could be problematic in the future, and you would kind of want to, like, I think that you should really be, with multi-crew ships, you should be unlocking gameplay that single crew ships don't unlock. And I think that giving the mole these lasers is a great way to unlock essentially new gameplay out punishing the single play players. Like, you're not taking anything away from them. You don't have to crank the mole up and make it super crazy to compete, because it's doing something else. And I think would be a good way if it had these Bestoke lasers that let it mine stuff that the prospector wasn't able to mine, to kind of put the mole in that sweet spot where it's like, oh wow, this whatever rock that the prospector can't mine is selling for a lot today. Well, I want to get my buddies together and I really want to go out and mine that rock because, hey, we need some credits. Or maybe like maybe an organization wants that certain rock, or like whatever. So it would give a lot more reasons to be able to hop in the mole. Potentially, even if it's not always the best money making, it would be a little bit of a different minigame, be different play style, and you'd be able to play with your friends, which I think would be enough to put the mole in a different spot from the prospector and make it viable in certain situations for sure. Now, I only use Quantanium in this example because it's something that it's a rock that we already have in game, and it's something that we already use, so like the effects of it would be kind of easily shown in example. But like with this mining, it could like you could bring it out and flesh it out to quite a few different things, like armor, like the different materials that you need to mine for armor and stuff like that. So like you could really push the gameplay elements and the multi-crew advantage or different play styles to the max with this, with I feel like very little effort after you kind of implement the first system. Like most of the work's already done, I feel like, for this. So I think it would be an easy win for CIG in the mining field to just kind of bump up the reason to play with your friends and to use kind of more multi-crew ships in these roles that traditionally you would only have like 3 people in prospectors. The reason why I'm so kind of passionate about multi-crew and been talking about it a bunch recently is because coming from Elite and being excited when Elite Dangerous added multi-crew in there, and then realizing like it's pointless, like after trying to use my buddy's turret and it was terrible and then I don't like having a buddy fly one of my fighters in a Thargoid fight. Like I think I've only used it 2, maybe 3 times the entire time I played Elite. And then trying to think about it, like in Elite Dangerous, I can't really think, with how the game currently is, how you can make multi-crew anything but what it is, really. Like you can make it a little bit more interesting, but like I don't think it's ever going to be great. But in Elite, that's a little bit more understandable because it's really a single player game turned into a multiplayer game. Now, Star Citizen, I feel like, has a lot more riding on its shoulders to get this right, because Star Citizen is a multiplayer game through and through. Like, it's built to be a multiplayer game. A ton of their ships are built with multi-crew in mind. So I feel like they have a lot more riding on their shoulders to get it right. And these are just some of the changes that I think that can make multi-crew better. They don't have to take these exactly, but I do think at the end of the day, the philosophy with multi-crew is you should be unlocking gameplay loops doing multi-crew that aren't possible with single or solo crew ships, essentially. And the reason why I think that that's the route to go is because it's going to be super hard to balance it's going to be hard to balance, like in this example, the mole versus prospector. How are you going to get the mole 3 times as better at minimum? And then even then, it's probably better just to take out prospectors, because like if pirates show up, they're probably only going to get one of you. Or like it's just more fun to fly your ship and mine instead of just running the mining laser. Like, so these are kind of just some hurdles. And I think at the end of the day, the philosophy CIG needs to take to overcome this is unlocking different gameplay loops with multi-crew that you cannot do single crew. Or if you can do it single crew, make it extremely challenging and not really worth it unless you have multiple people, potentially. So thank you for all for watching the video. If you have anything that you would like to add to this, or maybe like you don't think this way of multi-crewing would be great, or you have a different idea about how to potentially make the mole more viable in mining, let me know in the comments down below. And I hope you all enjoyed the video, and thank you all for watching.